Tutorial, we're going to be creating an Angular 2 application that uses the Auth0 authentication system. So if you need access control and authentication in Angular 2, I can't stress enough how awesome Auth0 is. Not just the functionality, but the analytics behind the scenes to track users, to build client lists, control what content can be seen by guests and logged in users. It's just a really great system. Alright, so like with most of my videos, this is based off of a more in-depth course. So this is based off of the 12 project Angular 2 course I have, which is my personal favorite, and I'll leave a link in the description. Alright, so I just want to tell you guys that when you purchase these affordable courses, it really supports me and the company Eduonics that makes these courses possible. I like to get you guys the best free content on YouTube, but if you ever want to get in more in-depth in terms of coding and extensibility, these courses are pretty great. Alright, so enough of that. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, first thing you want to do is go to auth0.com and just go ahead and create an account. Alright, you can read through it. There's just a ton of great things that this can do. Very customizable, and you can use it for all kinds of different platforms. You'll see there's AngularJS, Angular 2, which is what we'll be using, PHP, Ruby on Rails, and the list goes on. Alright, so I might in the future make a video on how to use this with some other platforms, but Angular 2 happens to be my favorite framework at this time, and you guys probably noticed that I've been doing a lot of Angular 2 videos. So let's go ahead and I'm going to click login, and like I said, you're going to have to sign up. So just if you click sign up, enter your information here. You might have to verify your email, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to log in, and this is actually the same interface that our application will use. And you get this nice dashboard, and there's all kinds of links on the side here, and I don't even know quite a bit of this stuff, but I do know that you can track your users. You can see I have one user for one of my clients, and if we look at that, we have all types of information for that user, which happens to be me. The devices that they use, their history, locations, all kinds of stuff. Alright, now what we want to do first is create a client. So if we go to clients, click create client, and you can name your app. Let's just call this just call it ng auth or ng auth0, and then you want to choose single page web application and then create. Alright, and then that's going to give you some options as far as platforms. We're using Angular 2, and then it'll give you a nice quick start to go through, nice tutorial, which is basically going to do the stuff that we're going to do, except we're going to add some steps to it. Alright, and if we click on settings, that's where you can get all the information for this client. So we have the name, the domain, okay, you don't want to change that, the client ID, the client type, which is a SPA or a single page application. The only thing we need to do now right here is we need to add our allowed callbacks. So we're going to say HTTP localhost port 3000. Alright, that's where we will be developing. So let's go ahead and save that. Alright, so now we have our client. Now, what we want to do, you want to make sure you have Node.js installed. If you don't, just go to nodejs.org and go ahead and download it, install it, and get that set up. That'll also include npm, which we'll be using to install modules. Alright, now for Angular, we're going to be using the quick start, which if we go to angular.io, click on get started, and go down to this link right here, clone the entire quick start. That takes us to the GitHub page. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is grab this git clone link right here. Alright, and if you don't have Git installed, if you're using Windows, I'd really suggest getting, what is it, git-scm. Yeah, git-scm.com, and I'd suggest downloading this. It gives you Git. It also gives you a really nice command line tool called git bash. Alright, which add some additional Linux type tools. So I would get that, And as far as an editor, I'm using Visual Studio Code, which is free and open source if you want to grab that. Alright, now what I'm going to do is open up a command line, and I'm going to head to where I want to set up this application, which is in my C drive and then in a folder called Sandbox. Alright, now I'm going to paste that git clone command in, which is going to clone the quick start, and I'm going to call this ng, what did I call it? ng auth0. So that'll go ahead and clone that into that directory. Now we're going to cd into that directory. Alright, and then we'll run npm install, and that'll install all the dependencies with that quick start, which includes all the Angular packages, reactive extensions, and some of the other dependencies for Angular 2. Alright, we're going to try to move pretty quick through this as well, because there is quite a bit to get to. Alright, so now that that's all set, let's try and run npm start, and that should start up our application on port 3000. Alright, so there we go, my first Angular app. I'm going to open up my console with F12, make sure there's no errors or anything like that, and we should be good to go. Now before we get into creating our service to interact with Auth0 and all that, I just want to create a couple basic components. So I'm going to bring in that folder to my editor. So sandbox ng auth0. Alright, and we're going to, in the app folder, we're going to create a folder called components. And inside there we'll create another folder. Let's call this, we'll call this dashboard. Alright, and then inside there we'll have dashboard dot, actually, you know what, let's not call it dashboard, let's call it home. Okay, so inside home we'll have home.component.ts. Okay, remember I always use TS. These are TypeScript files, and they'll get compiled down to JavaScript. Alright, and then we're also going to create a file called home.component.html, which will be the template for that component. Alright, now what I'm going to do is go to app component TS, which is the core component for Angular 2, and we're going to just copy everything in there and paste that in home component TS. Whoops, I didn't grab it. Oh, why is that not copying? Okay, so let's go ahead and change the selector to home. And the template, now I don't want to stick my template inside of this file. I wanted to use that HTML file. So to do that, we're going to change it to template URL, and then just change this to home.component.url. Alright, now in order to use this relative path like this, we need to just include up here module ID, and then just set that to module.id. Alright, and then we'll save that, and then inside the home component, we'll just say home for now, inside the HTML. Now we're also going to have a profile component. Okay, so let's go and create inside components. Once again, we'll have a folder. Whoops. We'll have a folder called profile. And let's say new file called profile.component.ts. And then let's also create the HTML file profile.component.html. Alright, and then let's copy what we put inside the home component TS file and paste that in there, and then just change this to profile, and then, oh, I didn't change the class, we got to do that too. So this will be profile component, and the home one should be for the class home component. Alright, so we'll save that. In the profile component HTML, let's go ahead and just put in the text profile. Actually, we'll put an H1 and we'll say user profile. Alright, and in the home, let's just put in an H1 and we'll say welcome. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to import these into the app.module.ts file. Okay, this is where we need to bring any components that we create, we need to bring in here. So let's say import home component, and that's going to be from /components/home/home dot component. Alright, and then we also want to bring in the profile. Okay, change this path. Alright, now we need to add these to the declarations array right here. So we're just going to say home component and profile component. Alright, so let's save that. Now, if we go to our app component TS file, you can see the template is just this string right here. We're going to do the same thing here and give it its own file. So we'll say template URL and then app.component.html. And of course, we need to add the module ID up here. Save that, and then let's create that file. So app.component.html. And for now, let's just put in home, and that should display our home component. Alright, let's see what's going on here. Home component.url. Whoops, that's not right. Where did I put that? Right here. This should be HTML. And I did the same thing there, didn't I, in profile? Okay, so now we're seeing welcome, and we know that that's coming from the home components HTML. Alright, hopefully I haven't lost you guys yet. So now we have these two components, and we want to create a router so that we can go to a different URL. So home will be at the home page, and then profile will be at /profile. Alright, so bear with me, we're going to implement the router. This is the latest version of Angular 2. It's the, let me just show you package.json. It's 2.0.1, so we're out of the release candidate stage finally. That was a real pain because every video I did, for instance in RC4, a week later RC5 would come out and have a totally different syntax and new files, and I had to redo it, and it wouldn't work, and people complained. So finally we're in the stable stage of Angular 2. Alright, now we're going to create a file for our routers. So let's go in the app folder. We're going to create a file called app.routing.ts. Alright, we're going to bring a couple things in here. We're going to import something called module with providers. Okay, that's going to be from @Angular/core. Okay, next thing we want to bring in is a couple things from the router. So import routes, and also router module, and that's going to be from Angular/router. Okay, we also want to bring in our components. So we have our home component, and that's going to be from ./components/home/home.component. Okay, we also want to bring in the profile. Alright, and then we're going to create our our routes. So let's say const app routes, give it a type of routes, and then we're going to set that to an array. And in that array, we'll define our routes. So this is going to be an object. It's going to take a path. And this is going to be the home page. So we're going to leave the path blank. And then say component, which will be the home component. Alright, now we also want a path for our profile. Component for that is going to be the profile component. Alright, and then down here we just need to do a couple exports. We're going to say export const app routing providers. Okay, app routing providers, we're going to set to any array and then just set to an empty array. Alright, and then we want to do export const routing, and we're going to set module with providers equals router module dot for root, and then we're going to pass in that app routes variable or array. And that's it. That sets up our router. Let's save it. Now we need to import this file into app.module.ts. So let's go up here and say import. Okay, we're going to import routing as well as app routing providers. Okay, that's going to be from the file we just created, which is app.routing. And then we need to include that in the imports. So right here after browser module, we're going to say routing. Alright, now we also have to add in a providers array here. Okay, and inside the providers, we're going to put in app routing providers. Alright, so that looks good for now. Let's save it. And now to finish up our routing, we need to go to our index.html file. And right under the body tag, we're going to add in a base tag and say href equals /, which will be the base URL. Alright, save that, and then we're getting an error saying it can't find an outlet. So we need to go to our app component HTML file, get rid of that home, and put in router outlet. Save it, and now we see our home page. And now if I go to /profile, it's our user profile. Okay, so our routing is now set up. Now I do want to use Bootstrap just to make things look a little better. By default, this Angular 2 Quick Start has a style CSS file with some stuff in it. We're just going to get rid of all of that. Okay, we'll save it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Bootswatch, which is basically just custom Bootstrap CSS files. And let's see, we'll just grab let's grab this journal one. So if I click download, it gives us all the CSS. What I'm going to do is just copy the link up here and then go to my index.html file, and let's see, we're going to put this right here. We'll say link rel equals style sheet href, and we're just going to paste that in. Save it. If we go back to our application, you can see that it's changed a little bit, the font. Alright, now what I want to do is I want a nav bar. So I'm going to go to Get Bootstrap, Getting Started, Examples, and then this starter template. We'll click that, and then Control U to see the source code. And I'm going to grab this nav down to where this container div ends. Alright, and then we're going to go back to our app component HTML file, and we'll go ahead and paste that in. And then I'm going to take the router outlet and cut that and replace this starter template div right there. Alright, now for this up here, let's get rid of navbar fixed top. Get rid of that class, and then the project name we'll say ng auth0, and let's see, for the links here, let's just keep the home, and I'm going to get rid of the class active, and instead of an href right here, we're going to say router link and set that to slash. Alright, so let's take a look at that, see what that looks like. Alright, so, wow, pink. I didn't know it was going to be pink. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Let's see what the navbar default class looks like for the navbar. Alright, yeah, that's better. Okay, so what we're going to do now is put our profile link. Now I want the profile link to be on this side, so we're going to take this UL and copy it, paste it right underneath, and then just add a class of navbar right. And then let's change that to profile, and then that'll go to slash profile. Save that. Okay, so now if we click on this link here, it brings us to the profile, and we can go back to the home page. Alright, so that takes care of that. So now we're going to start to implement Auth0. Now there's a couple modules we need to install, so let's go back to our server and stop it with Control-C. And we're going to say npm install angular2-jwt-save. Alright, so that's the main package. And then we also want to install the auth lock. And what that is, it's a widget. It's that login and sign up box widget that pops up. So we're going to say npm install. Let me see, I forget the exact. If we go to quick start, that should tell us. Right here, npm install auth0-lock. Okay, and we want to add the --save as well. Alright, so we'll go ahead and run npm start. And then there's a couple things we need to do before we create our service. And we need to go to our system.js.config.js file, and we need to map the Angular2 JWT library. So down here where it says other libraries, we're going to go right here and say Angular2-JWT, and this actually stumped me for at least an hour trying to figure this out. But what we want to do is set it, map it to node_modules/Angular2-JWT/Angular2-JWT.js. Alright, and then down here we want to add to our packages Angular2-JWT, and then we're going to set that to an object. Make sure you put a comma there as well. And we're going to use double quotes here and say default extension, and then set that to JS. Alright, and we should be good for this file. So let's save it. And then another thing we need to do is go into index.html, and we just need to add the CDN for for the lock module or the lock widget. Alright, so I'm going to paste that right there. Alright, so we'll save that. Let's also change the title from Angular Quick Start. We'll change it to ng auth0 app. Okay. So now we're going to create the service. Now there's a really good starting point in the quick start. Okay, so if we go click login, and this file right here, I'm actually going to copy all of this. Alright, and then let's go to our app folder, and create a folder called services. Okay, inside there we'll create a file called auth.service.ts, and we're going to just paste that in. So we're bringing in injectable so that we can inject it as a dependency. We're setting this auth0 lock variable, and then our class name is auth, and right here we're setting a variable called lock, and then we're basically initializing it here. We're passing in the client ID, which if you're looking at the tutorial inside of your client here, it's going to automatically put those values in. So you just want to leave that if you're doing it this way. If not, just put your client ID that you find in your settings. So this right here, and then also the domain goes here. And then there's a set of options you can use, but for now we're just putting in an empty object. Alright, next thing we have a constructor, and what we want to do, if this error right here is happening because it's not assigned to a type, so I'm just going to say :any just to get that out of there. Alright, and then what it's doing is it's authenticating, it's getting an ID token and putting that into local storage. Alright, so that's how we can tell if we're logged in or not, is we can check for this token. And then down here we're using the lock module we're calling .show. Alright, so this is going to display the widget to have us log in. Alright, and then we have this authenticated function which just returns token not expired, and that basically allows us to check to see if the user's logged in or not, if they're authenticated. And then of course logout, we're just going to remove that token from local storage, and that'll log us out. Alright, so we can save this, and then we have to import it to a couple places. So let's first go to app.module.ts, and we also need to bring in our auth providers from the Angular 2 JWT module. So let's say import auth_providers from Angular 2-JWT. Alright, and let's also bring in that service we just created. So import auth, and that's going to be from /services/auth.service. Alright, now these have to be added as providers in this array. So let's say auth providers and auth. Alright, so that looks good. Let's save that. And then we're going to go into our app component.ts file and import this service there as well. Oops, just auth. Services. Okay, and we need to inject it in the constructor. Okay, that's how you do dependency injection with Angular 2. So we'll say private auth, and we'll set that to auth. Alright, now let's do the same thing in the other components. So inside home component TS, just paste that in. Okay, and of course we have to import it. Okay, this time we're going to say // services auth.service. Alright, and now for the profile component. Alright, save that. Make sure we're not getting any errors. Good. So now we're going to add a login link. Let's go to our app component HTML, and where we have the profile right here, I'm just going to copy that. Okay, we'll paste that in. Now for this A tag, we're going to do href and just set it to a number sign, and then we need to add a click event. So we're going to say click equals, and it's going to equal auth. So that's going to be the auth service, and then the login function that's in that service. Alright, and then obviously we'll change this to login. Alright, so let's save that and see what we get. So we have a login link. If I click it, it brings up our login box, okay, which we can sign up with or log in. We can use these social accounts or just user email and password. Now before I go and sign up for an account, I just want to add in my log out link. So I'll copy this, paste that in down here, change this to log out, and change this to log out. Alright, so let's try signing up. So we'll click login, we'll go to sign up, and let's go ahead and actually let me make sure I have no users. Alright, I got this user, so I'm going to delete him. Let's see, actions, delete. Alright, so I'm going to reload, and let's click sign up. Then down here, I'm just going to put in an email. And what's really cool is that if it recognizes your email as a gravatar, it actually pulls down your avatar, which is really neat. So let's put in a password and sign up. Alright, now what it did is it signed us up and then it signed us in. Okay, now right now you can't tell that we're signed in, but we're going to change that in a minute. Let's just make sure that that got added here. So if I reload this page, now we have that user. Okay, it says last login a few seconds ago. Alright, so as long as people register through that module there, you'll get their information here, so you can build a nice list of users or clients. Alright, so back in our application, what I want to do is I only want the login link to show if we're not logged in, and then profile and logout should only show if we are logged in. And that's really easy to do. We're going to go back to our app component HTML file, and we're just going to add in an ngIf. Okay, so we'll start with the login. We'll say ngIf, set that to not. Okay, so we use the exclamation mark. We're going to say not auth dot authenticated, which is a function. Alright, and then I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to put this in for log out, except we want to get rid of the exclamation. If we are authenticated, we want log out to show. Same thing with the profile. Alright, so let's save that. And now you'll see that I don't see the login link because I am logged in. So if I click log out, it logs us out, and now we have the login again. Now we can do the same thing with in the inner page or in the home component. Let's go in there, and we'll just put in let's see, we'll put in a paragraph, and let's just give it a class of well. Okay, and then for this we'll say you are logged in. Now we only want this to show if we're logged in, so we're going to add ngIf auth dot authenticated. Okay, then let's copy this. And actually, you know what we'll do? Let's change this to a div. And we'll change the class to alert. And if we're not logged in, let's do alert danger. Okay, and then for this, let's change this to success, alert success, and then just put an exclamation mark in front of this. And actually, no, I want to change this. This should be success because we're logged in. And then this should be danger. Alright, and then here we'll say you are not logged in, and save. Okay, so we're not logged in. If we go, and I'm just going to use this link here so I don't have to re-log in. Now we are, and we get the green alert that says you are logged in. Alright, so you can now hide and show things throughout your application based on if the user is logged in or not. Now we can also get profile data that we can list on our profile page. Alright, now the way that we do that is through the service and through this.lock.on authenticated. The documentation doesn't show you how to do that, or at least the quick start that we looked at, but I'm going to show you how right now. Okay, so what we need to do is say this.lock.getProfile, and we're going to take this auth result object that we have, paste that in there, and then just say .id token. Okay, you got to pass in your token, and then we'll have a callback function. Alright, and then in that function it's going to take in an error. We'll say any, and a profile object, which we'll just say any. Alright, and inside here let's check for the error. If error, then we'll throw new error and then pass in that error value. Alright, and then under that we're gonna take this where we set our local storage token. We're gonna put that up here, and then we also want to store the profile information. So let's change this to profile, and then change this to profile. Now with local storage you can only store strings, so we're going to actually wrap this in JSON.stringify, and that'll make it a string. Alright, so let's save that, and then when we log out, in addition to clearing the token, we want to clear the profile data. So just go profile. Okay, so once we have that profile data, let's go into our profile component TS file and then add a property of profile. And then in the constructor we'll say this.profile equals local storage.getItem profile. Alright, and then we can use that in our view. So let's go to our profile component HTML, and let's create actually, you know what we'll do is in here, instead of just saying user profile, we can say profile.nickname, and then we'll just put apostrophe S like that. Alright, so let's see if that works. What's this? Cannot read nickname of null. Alright, so we have to re-log in, I believe. Okay, so if we say log in, and then click on profile. Let's see, that didn't work. Local storage.getItem profile. Do we not have a nickname, maybe? You know what we'll do is in the service, let's go. Oh, we need to convert it from a string back to JSON. That's right. So in the right here, we're gonna wrap this in JSON.parse. All right. There we go, TechGuyInfo's profile. And we can get things like the avatar, Actually, let's do a console log just to see the things we can get. So right here, we'll say console.log this.profile. Alright, so down here we can get the email, we can get the name, which is also the email, updated at, and then picture, which is a gravatar. So what we can do is, let's create a row, bootstrap class of row, call md2. This is pretty much identical to the project in the Angular 2 course. So this will be call md 10 on 10. All right, so let's grab that, put that in there, and then for the image, I'm going to give it a style. And we'll say width 100%, and then a source of profile.picture. And there we go. And let's give this a class. We'll say image circle, and then we can get some other data here. Let's do email, which I guess we can get in profile.name. And we could say last update profile.created at. And there we go. So now we have a nice little profile. Okay, so the last thing I want to do here is I want to implement something called Auth0, because right now, I mean, we can go to profile. If we log out, the profile link is gone, but if I try to go to /profile, wait a minute. Yeah, see, it's taking us to profile. And we're getting some errors. So what we want is we want it to boot us out to index, to the home page. So to do that, we're going to go and create a file in our app folder. And we're going to call this auth.guard.ts. And I'm actually going to just paste this in. So we're bringing in injectable so we can inject it as a dependency. And then from our router, we're getting router activated route snapshot and router state snapshot. We're bringing in this can activate and then our auth service. All right, then we're creating a class called Auth0, and we're going to do implements can activate. And can activate is what allows us to basically block certain routes and add conditions. All right, and then we're injecting here the auth service as well as the router. And then in our can activate here, which takes next and state, we're just going to run a test. We're going to say if we're logged in, if authenticated, then we're going to return true. That's going to let us through. All right, we'll also console log that we passed. Else, if we're not logged in, we're going to console log that we're blocked, and then it's going to redirect us to the home page, and we're going to return false. All right, now if we save that, there's one last thing we need to do to implement that, and that is go to, well, two things. We need to go to app.routing.ts and go to the whatever route we want to block, which is the profile, and we just want to say can activate, and then pass in here Auth0. Okay, now we're getting an error because we need to import Auth0. auth.guard. Alright, save that, and then we're going to go to our app module TS, and we're also going to bring in auth.guard. Okay, and then we're going to add that as a provider down here. And save. Okay, let's see how that works. So we're not logged in. Let's try to go to dash profile. And it brings us back to the home page. And we get blocked by auth.guard. And then just to make sure, let's log in. And we're getting this error. Now the reason we're getting this is because this route /profile isn't in the list of allowed callbacks. So what we need to do is go back to our interface here and go to clients and then ngauth0 and just add this in the list of allowed callbacks and save. And then that should take care of that issue. Alright, so if we go and log in, and now we're logged in, and we can go to our profile page. Alright, so that's it. We now have a full user registration login system with access control. Alright, so hopefully you enjoyed this little application. Like I said, this is part of an Angular 2.12 project course that I'm sure you guys would love if you like this video. Alright, so thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe, leave a comment, whatever you can do, a like, anything helps. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.